Simon Smoke is the newest nightmare critter to join the lineup, and he might be the most obnoxious of them all. Now, if you've been following the nightmare critters drops like I have, you know that each one of these characters brings something unique to the table, whether it's Baba Chop's distant, laid-back attitude or Icky Licky's shameless excuse making. Simon, though, takes things to a whole new level. This guy's here to remind everyone just how cool and popular he thinks he is. So let's break him down piece by piece and answer some of the burning questions about what role he might play in Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. We'll also dig into the meaning behind his scent, speculate on how he'll interact with other characters, and talk about what that wood smoke symbolism could mean. And of course, I'll save some time at the end to reveal how he fits into the rest of the Nightmare Critters lineup. First off, let's talk about appearance. Simon's a red dragon covered in bold colors that immediately scream, "Look at me." His sharp yellow horns, the $sign around his neck, and his smug expression all work together to tell you exactly what he's about. This guy has charisma, but not the good kind. The kind that makes you want to roll your eyes. His whole vibe is like he's the star of his own show, and we're just the audience meant to admire him. He's flashy, he's loud, and he's not afraid to flaunt it. Now, why a dragon? It makes sense if you think about it. Dragons are often symbols of power, wealth, and sometimes arrogance, and Simon definitely embodies that arrogance. He's not just here to be a part of the Nightmare Critters crew, he's here to make it his crew. That $sign around his neck, it's like he's trying to show off his worth in the most obnoxious way possible. You're not a SoundCloud rapper, bro. Stop it. He's got this whole "I'm better than you" attitude, and he's not subtle about it. The character description even tells us that he's the kind of guy who always makes sure everyone knows just how popular he is. Simon doesn't just want attention, he craves it. But here's the thing, this cool guy act isn't just for show. He actually wins, almost always. Which brings us to one of the first questions. What does this mean for us as players in Chapter 4? Could Simon Smoke be one of the most powerful Poppy Playtime characters and be able to back up his trash talk with that strength? Let's be real, Poppy Playtime has always been about unexpected twists. So while Simon might seem like the kind of guy who's too cocky for his own good, there's a good chance that arrogance actually gives him an edge. Picture this. You're navigating a dark corridor in the deepest parts of the factory, and there's Simon Smoke bragging about how he's already beaten everyone else who's tried to make it this far. You can almost imagine him taunting you, saying things like, "Oh, you think you're gonna beat me? Good luck." He's the kind of character who would have a bit of dialogue here and there, constantly reminding you that you're just another player in his game. Now, the second question I have is about his scent. Wood smoke. What could that possibly symbolize? If we're looking at this from a purely symbolic perspective, wood smoke is often associated with things like campfires, warmth, or even destruction, depending on the context. Maybe Simon's wood smoke scent ties into his fiery nature as a dragon. He's got this underlying tone of danger, like a fire that's just waiting to burn. Wood smoke also lingers, doesn't it? It sticks around, just like Simon's overbearing personality. Once you've encountered him, you're not likely to forget him. So perhaps the scent is a nod to his lasting impression, or the trail of chaos he leaves behind. There's something almost territorial about wood smoke too. If you smell it, you know someone's been there before you, claiming the space. Maybe Simon's scent symbolizes how he marks his territory within the factory. If he's in Chapter 4, he's not just gonna let you pass through without knowing who was there first. He's owning the place. Next up, let's talk about Simon's role in Chapter 4. Will he be an actual enemy? I think there's a good chance that he'll be a more active antagonist than some of the other Nightmare Critters. His competitive nature practically begs for it. If there's any character in the lineup that would relish a direct confrontation, it's Simon. He'd probably set up traps or obstacles just to prove a point, to show he's won before you even had a chance to compete. Imagine a sequence where Simon challenges you to some kind of twisted game, like a deadly race or a puzzle that he claims to be solved ages ago. He's not just content with getting in your way. He wants to know that he's already conquered whatever challenges lie ahead. So in chapter 4, we could be looking at a character who doesn't just ambush you like Huggy Wuggy or creep around in the background like Mommy Longlegs. Simon might be right there in your face, mocking your every move, daring you to keep up. And because of his personality, he probably set things up so that even if you do succeed, he'd have some excuse ready, like, oh, I was just going easy on you. But let's move on to another aspect. How will we see his personality expressed in the game? Given his description, I think it's safe to assume that Simon's arrogance will be a big part of any interaction with him. He's the type who would constantly be throwing insults, little jabs about how slow you are, how you're never gonna make it. This could come through in voice lines or in environmental cues. Posters of him scattered throughout the factory, boasting about his accomplishments, maybe graffiti that he scrawled on the walls about being the king of Playtime Co. or something like that. It's easy to imagine Simon leaving little reminders everywhere, almost as if he's created a fan club for himself. Perhaps there are even little toys or collectibles related to him scattered around, each one with a tag that reads something like Simon Smoke #1. But here's a fun twist to consider. What if Simon's biggest weakness is his own ego? The developers might give us opportunities to use his arrogance against him. Maybe he underestimates you in certain puzzles, or he's too busy bragging to notice that you've outsmarted him. In a way, he could be his own worst enemy. That brings us to the bigger picture of the Nightmare Critters lineup. If we've got Baba Chops, Icky Licky, Raby Baby, and now Simon Smoke, how do they all fit together? It's possible that each of them represents a different aspect of the factory's experiments. While Baba Chops seems reserved and guarded, and Icky Licky is all about deflection, Simon's role might be to showcase the results of unchecked pride and vanity. Maybe these critters were designed to mirror human traits, taking those traits to their most extreme forms. Simon's pride could be a reflection of the factory's own hubris, the idea that they can create life, control it, and make it serve their purposes. So if we're looking at Simon in the grand scheme of chapter 4, it's not just about dealing with a cool guy who's all talk. It's about confronting the darker side of creation itself. As we descend deeper into the factory, we're not just facing creatures designed to scare us. We're facing creatures that embody the factory's own twisted psychology. Simon's obsession with being the best, with winning at all costs, could be a direct product of the experiments that brought him to life. He's not just a character in the game. He's a mirror reflecting back to the factory's own need to dominate everything in its path. So as we prepare to encounter Simon Smoke, it's worth keeping this in mind. We're not just up against a nightmare critter. We're up against a piece of the factory's soul, a fragment of its own monstrous personality, brought to life and ready to prove that it's better than anything else. But what do you guys think? Is Simon Smoke gonna be the most challenging critter yet? Will his ego be his downfall, or will it give him the edge he needs to stay on top? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.